Hi everyone, my name is Dr. Jennifer Katz from the University of Manitoba. This video is an instructional video to share with you the Respecting Diversity program, or RD program as we call it for short. The RD program is intended to build classroom climate. It develops students' self-concept and respect for diverse others, and as we work through, I think you'll see how we do that. We begin by talking to students about the idea of SMART. So in Lesson 1, our goal is to expand students' idea of what SMART means. Right from kindergarten through the university years, we have used this program. So I come in on day 1 and I say to the students, what does SMART mean? Children will have some fairly standard answers in the beginning. Particularly young children, the first thing they will say is, you can read. Some students will add to that and say things like, you can spell, or you're good at writing. Students will also talk about math, because that's a common practice in our schools. And so younger students will talk about you can add or you can subtract. Older students will talk about being able to problem solve or do math in your head or quickly is often a goal for them. So we'll get into the math pieces as well. Some might give us other functions like multiplication, division. It depends on the age group that you're talking about. Some students may give you a more global kind of answer, like you get good grades or you think quickly. And so we'll put those up as well. You notice that I'm grouping things by intelligence. So we're going to use multiple intelligences as a tool for helping kids to expand their idea of what SMART means. So I'm grouping the verbal linguistic pieces together. I'm grouping the logical mathematical pieces together. I don't tell the students yet that that's what I'm doing. I simply accept their answers. But as I'm doing this, I'm trying to make it both visually and conceptually clear that those kind of work together. As we work through, students will eventually sort of exhaust their ideas of what SMART means. As you can tell, they're quite schooled in their responses. They tend to give us verbal linguistic and logical mathematical answers. Some students, if they've been in programs with social and emotional learning, may say something like, you're being a good friend, okay, or helping others, which gives us our interpersonal. Eventually, however, we're going to have to begin to prompt students. Depending on the age, of course, we'll use different language, but the idea is the same thing. So I'm going to say to the students, you know, guys, you're right. Some people are really good with numbers. They're good at math and problem solving. Some people are really good with words. They're good at writing and reading and spelling. What else are you guys good at? What are some other talents you have? As we do that, students will begin to expand that idea a little bit. And we may get an answer like, I'm good at hockey, is a common one. And then we'll get a list of 50 million different sports. And generally, I just end up grouping it and saying, okay, sports. You may get a student who talks about being good at art. And so then we'll put in, or it may be a specific aspect of art, like painting or drawing. And we'll put those in. It's possible you'll get a student with some kind of spatial talent, and so we'll talk about something like puzzles and the like, okay? Eventually, as you do this, you may be able to find a student who plays an instrument or sings or dances, and so we'll get something like piano, and then we'll move into instruments as we get a list of others. Singing or dancing could also be grouped into here. Eventually, we may have to more directly prompt students, and so we may have to fill in a little bit by saying things like, you know, I have a friend who's really good at gardening. She knows everything there is to know about plants. She loves to be outside in her garden. And so what we're doing is filling in the naturalist piece. We could talk about someone who's really good with animals and takes care of a lot of animals and that kind of piece. We're probably going to have to fill in the other two personal intelligences. So as we look at intrapersonal, which is the knowledge of self, Students don't always recognize that that is an intelligence, that knowing yourself, knowing how to set realistic goals, understanding what your strengths and challenges were, being a reflective thinker, that those are all part of a type of intelligence. And so we're going to put that one in, and we'll talk to the students about, I know people who really understand themselves, who are reflective, who are able to set appropriate goals and things like that. The other piece we'll probably have to fill in is the existential. Depending on the age of the students, we can talk about people who either are very spiritual, who like to meditate, who do yoga, who think about big picture ideas, who are thinking about the world, the big world out there. For older students, we can talk about something like philosophy as a school of thought, people who are into thinking about philosophical ideas. What we want to do is get all 9 intelligences up on the board. And so we'll prompt to the extent that we need to in order to have that. Once we have those all up on the board, we're going to now give students the language for the intelligences. So we're going to say to the kids, you're right, some people are really good with words. They're good at spelling, they're good at reading, they're good at writing. We call those people verbal linguistic. And we'll write it up for the students. And we'll go around the chart doing that for each intelligence. So then we'll say there are some people who are really good at being with other people. They understand other people, they know how to be a friend, they're leaders, they know how to help others. We call those people interpersonal. And so we're going to go through each of the intelligences in that way, classifying it and helping the students to understand that we can be smart in a lot of different ways. They will all reflect themselves in some way in here, and that's what we're trying to do, is to expand their thinking about what smart means. At the end of lesson 1, we ask students to reflect on themselves, and we ask students, what do you think your strengths are? We will get to working with challenges later in the program, but initially we want to start students off with what can they feel good about? What do they have to be proud of? What do they have to contribute to the classroom and to the world? So we're starting from a strengths-based perspective, and we ask the students to identify. Now we can do that in a variety of ways. We could have students journal. We could have students turn to a partner and talk. With young students, I've sometimes given them stickers with their name on it and had them bring it up and place it beside the one so we could see our classroom distribution. You can be creative in whatever way you wish. What you want is to begin that metacognitive reflection of how do I learn well? What do I have to be proud of? What is smart about me?